Here we have Ivana Milicic, and this is her second talk ever, so she's a little nervous, but I think it'll be good. In her free time, she likes to teach robotics to kids, but she claims that she's not a cyborg, so we'll find out. Thanks.
Thanks a lot. Hello. I'm quite sure that all of you have some childhood memories. Is there anybody in the audience without any childhood memory? I thought so. So when I think about my childhood, I'm mainly remembering pictures, so like lines of pictures, mainly like a photo album or album with short video clips, and there are also some stories attached to those clips. And one of the most important memories I have, let's say that way, is a memory of me sitting in a car, waiting on red lights. So it was some time I needed to be still. And I felt a bit boring. You know, you need to wait, it's boring. Oh, what a boring time. And at those times, I was looking around, and I see a picture of a tram, and of people getting inside the tram, outside of the tram. They had some trouble climbing in, and also sometimes it wasn't so convenient to get out. Sometimes it was raining, it was snowing, it was crowded. And I was looking at those people, and I was thinking, what could be different so they would feel better, the experience could be better? How to change the tram, or how to change tram station, or how to change their complete experience. And I clearly remember all these pictures in my head. What I didn't know then, of course, that was just a childhood game, is that I was observing those kids, those people, sorry, no kids, that I was getting in a kind of a way in their skin, that I was thinking what they were doing, how they were feeling, and I felt some empathy for them, and I wanted to solve the problems that I saw they're having. So what I was doing then as a play, as some kind of a game for me, it wasn't the only situation, I was doing that quite often, is what I am now. I'm designer. Hi, I'm Ivana, and I'm designer. Currently, I work as a freelance designer for TopTal. I run my own design studio, small design studio. I teach at University College Algebra 2 subjects as assistant lecturer. And as you heard, I volunteer in free time teaching kids robotics. I have 2 kids, I like to travel, and 24 hours a day are definitely not enough for me. What I really wanted to design, what was my dream, was to design cars and to design airplanes. And I have lots of drawings of cars and airplanes, thinking about how they could be different, how they could behave different, and what could all the experiences with those stuff be. So that led inevitably to studying industrial product design. So I graduated industrial product design, and what I was thinking when I was studying was that I will design home appliances, furniture, or some other stuff, because at the time, designing airplanes and cars somehow seemed not a fulfillable dream at the time, of course. And as life goes, and you need to earn money, and you need to live somehow, I started working as a graphic designer while I was at college. I started with designing books and magazines, and since books were my second love, I really loved reading. I was quite happy at the beginning with designing books and with designing magazines, and it was really awesome. But at some point, in a couple of years, I felt it a bit boring, you know, repeating yourself all the time. And what's then some point of interest that gets me like chills that I want to do was web design, animation design, interaction design. And I started working and learning more about web design, interaction design, animations, and I was mainly working as something called communication designer. You can call it just graphic designer because you're not that. And that leads us to a current point where I work as a digital product designer. And those digital products are somehow what was at the point of time previously a physical product, now you can just say it's a digital product. Currently, I work for a Silicon Valley startup, and I design 2 web apps in insurtech space. I'm the only designer in a team, and of course, since I'm here and they're in Silicon Valley, it's quite obvious that all the time I work remotely, and that I need to communicate and do all the work here with 9 hours time difference, and they're over there. As a designer, my main person in the team, remote, is of course product manager. We are all the time on a connection. Whatever I get, all the inputs I'm getting are mainly coming from product managers, who needs to, of course, communicate with leadership, with data scientists, and the rest of the team that's based there. I also, of course, once when I do my designs, I need to get them to developers, and of course that's not the only point of communication with developers, since we need to communicate all the time if we want to get good working products in the end. Also, since I'm the only designer at the team, I need to work on the branding, and I need to work with the marketing department too. So I have lots of responsibilities. We are working by agile methodology, and we do all development in 2-week sprints. My communication is mainly based on Slack. So 95% of the time, probably, we're on a Slack. Actually, I'm on Slack all the time. And because of time difference, I work like a couple of hours during our normal working hours. And the rest of the time, I work on night shift. So I start working again like 10, 11 p.m. When my kids go to bed, then it's my working time again. So I'm staying awake until 3 or 4 a.m., sometimes even longer, until their working time is finished, since I need to do all the communication. And it's all fine, because I'm a night person. It's awesome. It's great. But when alarm clocks rings at 7 a.m., it's not so very nice. So from time to time, I just need to get up, take kids to school, go back to bed. What we need in our communication is starting point when product managers are describing me what our next feature will be, what we will be working on. I started working at a company when we were developing MVP. And currently, we are working on the 2nd version of both apps. What I'm receiving from the product managers are their describings of what user will need, what are the business goals of our feature, how they see the feature will work, and so on. And I usually receive something like this. There are whiteboard sketches or some notes, and basically that's all that I get. While we are on our calls, we need a screen share. We are rarely having video calls. We are mainly based on the screen share. I see their screens, they're seeing my screens, we share the screens. And lots of communication is going just through instant messaging. After I receive all inputs, my process starts with thinking time. I need to think a lot. I need to process all the information that I've got from product managers. I need to understand all the needs, all the goals, how user flow will go, and then I start walking around, as I'm doing now. I do some running, I do driving, whatever. If I sit and think, it's not going to work. So I really need to walk, do something. Then I've got some ideas, I have some rough ideas in my head, and then I start sketching. And it looks like this. So it's really not shareable. I share now it with you, but I never share that with anybody. I usually have my iPad always with me with a pencil, and I just draw something like this, lines, questions to myself, some crazy flows that I have in mind. And after I do initial thinking, I have much clearer ideas in my head what's going on. And I have much more questions for my product managers to clear up all the things that I was missing first time, and also probably the things that they were missing too. And my process then continues with making more organized sketches, because when I receive their feedback, I have much more clear thing in my head how it's going to work. So I'm starting to do a little nicer sketches, not so crazy as the first one that I've showed. In those, I'm trying to explore the flow. I'm trying to see how user will go through our feature. And those sketches are something that I usually share with product managers so we can discuss further on, is that going to work, what we will need to change, how we will iterate on that, and so on. After that, those sketches are usually turned into wireframes. Still, we are just trying to figure out the user flow through the app. But now, since those apps are in production for almost 2 years, I have lots of elements built. And for those, I'm not really drawing wireframes from the beginning. I'm just building interfaces from the blocks that I already have. And then I'm combining those with new wireframes that I'm building for the new features. And wireframes usually look like this, with some explanation how stuff will work, what's this, what's that, and so on. I didn't mention at the beginning that I'm also Adobe certified instructor, and I'm certified for all those logos you see over here. And Photoshop was like my first love when I started designing on a computer. I really loved Photoshop. And when I started working on a web design, on user interface design, what should I use? Of course, Photoshop. What could I use? Whatever. It never felt like natural. It never felt like a real tool for doing user interface design. But I was using it. Everybody was using it. How many designers are currently in the room? Who uses Photoshop for interface design? OK. Who uses Sketch? Wow, cool. Who was using Adobe Photoshop? OK, you probably then know what I'm speaking about. When I started working on these projects, on these two apps, I was using all of this side. And since our products are basically data-driven, I have lots of tables, I have maps, charts, lots of different stuff. I was actually combining all these three in building interfaces, and it was quite a lot of mess. Product manager that I'm working with asked me one time, any chance to get your designs as sketch files? I said, OK, yes, why not? Let me try it. I was hearing that Sketch is new big thing. So I installed Trial, tried to open my PDF files of interfaces in Sketch. They were here, but not looking very good. I went through the app, played a bit, and realized, oh, this is something that feels good. This is something that I can work quite quickly. And I asked product manager, can I get 2 more days just to learn Sketch and to build everything in Sketch? And he said, yes, take your time, do it. And I did it. And after that, this part is never opened for interface design again. And if you're interested, we're starting Sketch app meetup group in Zagreb. So first meetup will be, I hope, this month. If not, then probably beginning of the November. So go to the meetup page and follow us. In Sketch, I do all high-fidelity mockups. The reason I liked Sketch, you know it, everything. I really liked ease of use of artboards, how I can easily have all my screens and actually all my flow on each artboard, and I can preview all of them and then have separate pages and jump from one artboard to the other, copy them, and so on. And for any element that I'm going to reuse, symbols are of so much help. So I have symbols for almost everything, and then I have symbol inside a symbol, inside a symbol, and so on. So here you see some of the basic symbols, and then those symbols are embedded into next level of a symbol, and at the end, I have a symbol like you see it at the top. And here is one of the interfaces built with those symbols. So all these tiles, of course, are the same symbol you saw there. And here I have an easy option to override whatever I want. So I have my components, and my workflow goes like a crazy. It's really fast. And also, I'm, in this way, limiting myself of doing any inconsistencies. And at the end, I have mockups, high-fidelity mockups, that I share with my developers. I usually do everything that's needed to be done in a flow. I try to remember all the states. I try not to forget empty states and error states and all the other, but it always happens, you know. One of the things that you designers must know, or sometimes experienced, is do you have final, or did you have final version, and then final version of a final version of a fin, and so on, and then you don't know which final version is, of course, and then you try to find the final version. What I found out a couple of months ago, and I'm now using that, is Abstract. For developers, Abstract is some kind of a GitHub for designers. And now I can have my one file or set of final files that I can open from Abstract. Then I can work on them, save a new commit, upload a new commit, and anytime I can go back into time, open any of the previous versions if I need to, and work on them. And what's even more, what's even making the app better for me, is that I'm doing most of communication with product managers upon finished screens in Abstract. So once I do design of something, I upload new commit to Abstract, and on those screens we can go select part of the interface, do all the conversation we need to do. And since I'm getting instant message as soon as product manager gives me some message, I then type again and some kind of a chatting over the screens. So I have everything in one place. I have my single source of truth. It's not always just single, of course, but still. And I have all communication on screens with product managers in one place. And we can always go back in time and see what was the previous version, what was conversation about that, and so on. Next part of a process is usually prototyping. All the screens that I make in Sketch need to form some kind of a flow, which we use for testing, for going through the flow. I was using Marvel at the beginning for connecting all these screens. And since we are now using InVision for developer handoff, I'm using InVision for prototyping. And whenever I have some kind of interactions and animations that are more complex, I'm using Principle, and lately I started learning Framer, but still need to do a lot of learning to be really proficient in it. So how I hand off my files to developers. We have some kind of a style guide, but it's not in the state I want it to be. Since in a chaotic startup environment, you never have enough time for doing something like this. So I'm trying to do that while I'm working on the new features. And I hope that at some point I'll have everything nicely set up, completely finished, finalized style guide in Abstract with all the components and so on. But not everything is still set yet. But all InDesign files are uploaded through Craft to InVision. And InVision developers can use inspect mode to go through my interface to take whatever they need to, all the measurements, CSS of the elements, see how it fits to a grid, and so on. For documentation, we are using Jira. And at the end, what I want most is to have happy user, to help somebody solve some kind of a task he has faster, more easier, or better. And feedback that I'm getting is usually that users are quite happy with using those apps that we are building. There are a lot of space to make them be better and to improve them, of course. And we are redesigning and adding new features all the time. But what I hear from them is what makes me happy at the end. And that's what I actually wanted since I was a child. And it's really making me feel good and content. So thank you. It's your prime time. Now you can ask me questions.
Great talk. We have time for one question right in the front. I think this is like a softball question, right?
Possibly. Hi, thanks for the talk. It was great. I have one question. I saw on your screenshot of Sketch. So obviously you're using Craft, but what other plugins of Sketch would you recommend?
Oh, I have so lots of them. One. Oof. Was Runner.
This is your laptop, right?
No, it's not my laptop.
Okay.
It's my laptop. I would show a list of plugins that I'm using. I don't know if you're using Runner. Try it. Runner can do all operations you do faster because you can just press a shortcut to start the runner, and then you just type whatever you need. If you have some symbol buried who knows where, or you need to perform some action, you just call it from the runner. So I think that one is the most useful. I use plugins for everything. For generating data, for drawing donuts, that's something that I'm using quite often. I use plugins for organizing symbols, for renaming artboards, for renaming layers, for lots of stuff. You know, Sketch itself is not working without having lots of plugins. So for whatever you need to do and you don't know how to do it in Sketch, try Googling and finding a plugin for it.
Thanks again, Ivana. I find it hard to believe that this is only your second talk.
Thank you. Thank you.